The first day back at school after summer vacation is supposed to feel normal. Maybe a little boring, maybe a little stressful, but mine didn't feel normal. It felt wrong from the moment I woke up that morning. And by the time the sun set, I wasn't even sure if I would make it back home alive. This isn't some story about a bully or being nervous about new teachers. This is about something darker, something that should not exist in a school, something that found me on the first day back and has never really let go since. The night before school, I barely slept. I tossed and turned, feeling like someone was watching me from the corner of my room, even though I was alone. I told myself it was just nerves, but deep down I knew it wasn't. It was that heavy feeling in your chest when something bad is waiting for you, and you don't know when it's going to happen. The morning came. My mom woke me up at 6:30. She was cheerful, like always, but I barely touched breakfast. I grabbed my backpack and caught the bus. The ride was normal kids laughing, showing each other pictures from vacation, but I just stared out the window. When the bus pulled into the school parking lot, something felt off. I don't know how else to describe it, but the building didn't look right. I'd gone there for years, but that morning the walls looked darker, the windows grimier. Like the whole place had aged 10 years over the summer. I walked inside, and the smell hit me first. Old, damp air. Not the usual smell of cleaning products and polished floors. It was like the school had been locked up and abandoned. I got to my locker 214. I spun the combination, opened it, and froze. Something was scratched into the metal door. Deep, messy letters, carved with something sharp. Don't stay late. My stomach twisted. I ran my fingers over the scratches. They were fresh. Sharp edges still curled outward. The rest of the day dragged on. Teachers gave introductions. Students whispered about vacations. On the surface it was normal, but I couldn't shake the unease. Hallways seemed darker. Classrooms felt colder. Even my best friend Ryan said, half joking, "Dude, this place feels haunted." When the final bell rang, I was ready to get out. But then I remembered I'd left my notebook in my last class. I went back for it. The classroom was empty, golden sunlight cutting through the blinds. I grabbed my notebook, stuffed it in my bag, then froze. Footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps echoing in the hallway. I stepped out, expecting to see a janitor, but the hallway was empty. Completely still, except for one thing, a single sheet of paper. Taped to my locker. My name was written on it in sloppy, childlike handwriting. I peeled it off. My hands shook as I unfolded it. "Don't go to the bathroom." I looked around, no one. The hallway hummed with the sound of flickering lights. I shoved the note in my bag and headed for the exit. But halfway there, my stomach cramped. I needed the bathroom badly. I hesitated. The note repeated in my head, warning me. But I convinced myself it was just a prank. So I pushed open the bathroom door. The second I stepped inside, my skin crawled. The air was damp, the lights flickered, and the smell, sharp metallic, burned my nose. There were 3 stalls. All closed. I pushed the first stall open. Empty. Second stall. Empty. When I pushed the third stall, it wouldn't move. Locked. I leaned closer, listening. Nothing. No breathing. No sound at all. And then, right by my ear, though no one was there, came a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." I jumped back so hard I nearly fell. I bolted out of the bathroom, my pulse racing. The hallways were darker now, even though it was barely after 3. The windows looked black, like night had fallen inside the school. I sprinted to the main doors, yanked them open. Locked. Side doors locked. That's when it hit me. The school was empty. Every classroom, every hallway. No teachers, no janitors, no students. Like everyone had vanished, leaving me behind. And then I heard it. A single dragging step. Then another, coming closer. I ducked into the nearest classroom, slammed the door, and crawled under a desk. My breath came in short gasps. The footsteps echoed. Down the hallway. Slow. Heavy. They stopped outside the classroom. The doorknob rattled. I pressed a hand over my mouth, shaking. Then came the scratching. Long, deep scratches down the wood. It stopped. Silence. And then the knob turned. The door creaked open. I couldn't see who or what was there, but I saw the shadow stretch across the floor. Long, bent, not shaped like a person. It stepped. Inside, the air grew colder. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it would leave. And then silence. When I opened my eyes, the shadow was gone. The door was wide open. I crawled out slowly, my body trembling. I knew I had to get out. I ran down the hallway, searching for another exit. Every door I tried was locked. The school seemed to shift, hallways longer than before, turns I didn't remember. And then, at the end of one hallway, I saw it. A figure. Tall, thin, its head bent too far to one side. It stood perfectly still, facing me. I froze. Then it started walking, slowly, one dragging step at a time. I turned and ran, my backpack bouncing. My chest burned, my legs felt heavy. But no matter which hallway I turned down, it was there. Always there. Closer each time. Finally, I saw the library doors open. I darted inside, slammed them shut, and hid between shelves. The silence was unbearable. Then, the soft sound of pages turning, like someone flipping through books. Slowly, I crouched lower, heart pounding. A whisper drifted through the shelves. "Don't stay late." It was the same voice from the bathroom. I stumbled backward, crashing into a table. The lights flickered, and in that moment, I saw it. The figure standing between the shelves. Closer. Its face wasn't a face. Just smooth, pale skin stretched where features should be. It raised a hand, long fingers curling, pointing at me. I ran. I don't even remember how I made it out, but suddenly I was in the hallway again. And then I saw the front doors. Wide open. I didn't question it. I sprinted outside, down the steps, into the sunlight. The second I crossed the parking lot, everything felt normal again. The air, the sound of cars, students talking. Like nothing had happened. I turned back. The school looked normal. Bright. Alive. Kids walking out as if dismissal had just happened. Ryan ran up saying, "Dude, where were you?" "I've been texting you." I looked at my phone. No missed calls. No texts. I glanced back at the building. The windows reflected the sun. Perfectly normal. But I knew it wasn't. That night, when I emptied my backpack, I found something I hadn't put there. A sheet of paper. My name written in the same messy handwriting, and beneath it, in dark red letters that smeared when I touched them, "See you tomorrow." I never went back to that school alone again. But even now, years later, every time I pass by the building, I feel it watching me. And sometimes, late at night, I hear it again. The dragging footsteps, the whisper, "Don't stay late." The empty desk. Everyone remembers their first day back at school after vacation. The smell of new books, the awkward greetings, the nerves about new teachers. But when I think back to my first day after that summer, all I feel is cold. Because on that day, something happened in my classroom that none of us could explain. Something that left a mark on me forever. This isn't just about a weird feeling or a bad dream. This is about a student who wasn't supposed to be there, but somehow was. It was September. Hot outside, but the classrooms were freezing because of the air conditioning. I walked into homeroom, scanning for my friends. The desks were arranged in neat rows, and everyone was buzzing about vacations and summer jobs. That's when I noticed it. An empty desk in the back corner. Now, that wouldn't be strange on its own. But this desk had something carved deep into the wood. Dark grooves spelling out a name, Ethan. I didn't think much of it. Maybe it belonged to a kid who'd been in the class before. The teacher started roll call. She read names one by one. Kids answered here. And then she said, Ethan Parker? Silence. We all looked at the empty desk in the corner. The teacher frowned, marked something on her paper, and continued. By lunch, I'd forgotten about it. My friends and I joked about how boring the first day was. But when I walked back into the classroom after the break, I froze. The empty desk wasn't empty anymore. A boy sat there. I didn't recognize him. Pale skin, dark circles under his eyes, messy brown hair. He stared at his desk, not moving, not talking to anyone. I leaned toward Ryan, whispering, "Who's that?" Ryan squinted. "No idea." "Must be new." The teacher didn't introduce him. Didn't say a word about him. Just kept teaching like everything was normal, but it wasn't. Because every time I glanced at him, he was staring back at me. Not blinking, not smiling. Just staring. By the time the final bell rang, my nerves were shot. I grabbed my backpack and left fast. But as I walked out, I heard a whisper behind me. My name. I turned. The desk was empty again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the image of his pale face, those dark eyes. The next morning, I walked into class. His desk was empty. I felt relief. Maybe I'd imagined it. But halfway through the lesson, I glanced back. He was there, sitting at the desk. Only, this time there was something different. His clothes looked wrong, old-fashioned, stained, like he didn't belong in our time. I nudged Ryan. "He's back." Ryan gave me a confused look. "Who?" I pointed. "That kid, Ethan." Ryan stared at the desk. "Dude, there's no one there." My blood ran cold. I turned back and Ryan was right. The desk was empty. I thought I was losing my mind. But then, during group work, I felt a hand on my shoulder. Cold, clammy. I spun around. He was standing right behind me. His lips barely moved, but I heard him whisper, "Don't let them forget me." I stumbled out of my chair, heart racing. The teacher asked if I was okay. I mumbled something and sat back down, but my hands were shaking. After class, I searched the school records. Ethan Parker. There was nothing. No student by that name. Not this year, not last year. Not ever. But when I walked back into the classroom, the name carved into the desk was deeper. Fresh, like it had just been scratched in. Over the next week, I saw him again and again. In the hallway, in the cafeteria, always at that desk. No one else ever seemed to notice him. Finally, I stayed after school, determined to figure it out. The classroom was empty, sunlight slanting through the blinds. I walked up to the desk. My fingers brushed over the carved name. The air turned cold. Behind me, I heard breathing. I turned slowly. Ethan stood inches away, his pale face twisted in pain. His voice was barely a whisper. "I died here." My throat went dry. "What do you want?" His eyes locked on mine. "Remember me." And then he was gone. The next morning I ran to the classroom. The desk was gone, removed, as if it had never been there. When I asked the teacher about it, she looked confused. "What desk?" she asked. "There's never been one there." But I know what I saw, and sometimes late at night, I still hear his whisper in my ear. "Don't let them forget me." The locker that wouldn't stay closed. I used to think lockers were the most boring part of school. Just metal boxes that held your books and junk food wrappers. But on the first day back after summer vacation, I learned that even something as ordinary as a locker can hide something truly horrifying. Something that should never have been opened. And now, every time I hear the slam of a locker door, I remember that day and the thing that was waiting inside mine. The first day back was always chaotic. Kids crowding the hallways, teachers yelling, papers flying everywhere. I found my locker number on the list taped to the wall. 119. Same hallway as last year. When I got there, I noticed something odd right away. The locker door was dented, the paint scratched, like someone had clawed at it. I spun the combination, tugged the handle. It stuck for a moment before groaning open. Inside, taped to the back wall, was a photograph, black and white. Old. It showed a boy about my age, standing in a hallway that looked exactly like ours, but older, dirtier. The boy's eyes were blacked out. The photo scratched with deep lines. My stomach dropped. I pulled the photo out and shoved it into my backpack, not wanting anyone else to see it. The rest of the day was a blur of introductions, but I couldn't stop thinking about that photo. Every time I opened my locker, the smell of mildew and rust hit me. And sometimes I swore I heard a faint tapping from inside. By the final bell, I was ready to leave. But when I slammed my locker shut, it popped back open. I tried again. Slam. Open. No matter how many times I shut it, the door wouldn't stay closed. That's when I heard it. A whisper, muffled, coming from inside. Let me out. I froze, my heart hammered. I looked around, but the hallway was empty. I told myself I was imagining it, but when I glanced down, the photograph was back, taped inside the door, even though I'd stuffed it into my backpack. Only this time, the boy's mouth was open, like he was screaming. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing the slam of metal in my dreams. When I woke up, my backpack was on the floor, the photograph lying beside it. Only now, the image had changed again. The boy wasn't alone. Something stood behind him. Tall, shadowy, its hand on his shoulder. The next day at school, I tried to avoid the locker, but between classes I had no choice. I spun the combination, bracing myself, when the door swung open. My breath caught. Inside wasn't books or shelves. It was darkness, like looking into a hole that had no end. And from that darkness, a pale hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. I screamed and yanked back. The door slammed shut. My friend stared at me, asking what was wrong. But when I opened the locker again, it looked normal. Just metal and empty space. Except for the photo. Now it showed me standing in the hallway, with the same blacked out eyes. I begged the office to give me a new locker. They laughed, said I was being dramatic. So I avoided it. I never opened it again. But on the last day of that week, I was called to the principal's office. He was holding my backpack. "You need to explain this," he said, handing me the photograph. It wasn't just one photo anymore. It was a stack, dozens. All of them showing me different angles, different hallways, some even from inside my own house. The final one made my blood run cold. It showed me standing at my locker, but behind me was the boy, his blacked out eyes staring right into the camera. I don't know who he was, or what he wanted, but I know this lockers aren't just empty boxes. Sometimes they're doors, and sometimes you should never open them, because once you do, they never stay closed again.